Hello everybody and welcome along to a brand new season of the ISR AIC. We have successfully made it through season 1, we've crowned our first champion and now we're here in season 2. It's the lovely Craig Evans joining me in the commentary box once again today. And Craig, it's a new season and last time out it was Nut Martinson who went on an impressive 3-race podium streak to take the championship in the final round.
Yeah, hello Toby, I'm happy to be here for a brand new season. I'm looking forward to this one. And yeah, Nut's got a lot to do this season. He's got a lot of hungry drivers coming to chase him down, wanting that title off him for the second time around. And new cars as well, so it's going to be a lot to take in.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We also have a few new drivers on the grid this year. We have 3 rookies on the grid, and of course we have an entirely new team, which brings us up to 22 drivers, so even more drivers Nut will have to fight if he wants to retain that crown. So we're going to get straight into things here at Brands Hatch, the lovely British circuit. I know you're all eager to get going, so let's go take a look at what's happening in qualifying. So as we take a look at the qualifying grid on our first row, you can see it's Jonathan Carrera, the rookie in the new team for Autoback 765, which takes pole position and the pole point. Impressive stuff by those guys to show up in their first race and take the pole position. Craig Evans will line up in second for Team NLR, who will be hoping to improve their fortunes from last season. Then we have the rookie of Chester Jackson, a very impressive rookie performance once again in Team EQU, replacing Zach Swader. Fourth is Nickel Foggy for NLR, again another great job by the NLR driver. Then we have Joshua Wood, who's looking to continue on his consistency for last season. Another rookie in the top 6 being Kevin Jacobs. 7th sees Zach Swader, followed by 8th, Charles McBee.
On row 5 we've got Colin McAllister starting 9th place with Ironbury Racing. We've got Renus McGuinness retaining a seat at ISR, he's starting in 10th place. We've got Josh Martin in 11th, Christopher Petterson for NORL in 12th. Douglas Anderson returns to the field, he's starting 13th with Evan Emery, the teammate of champion Nut Martinson, starting in 14th. Ross McFarlane, Josh's teammate, starts in 15th with Toby Byrne for ISR in 16th position.
17th place sees Valeria Campagnari for NORL, ahead of our champion Nut Martinson, who's all the way down in 18th. Terrible result for him. Another terrible result for row 10 sees Stephen Paul in 19th place for GTFG, ahead of Callum Spencer for Lucky Straight JSR. Rounding off the grid on the final row is Gareth Lennon, just ahead of Danny Diaz. And Craig, we can already see some big names down in the bottom rows for our qualifying grid.
Yeah, some big names there, obviously mainly our reigning champion from last season, but that's not going to phase him. He didn't have a strong start to the first AIC season, and he came on strong in the second half, so that won't phase him at all. Got a long season to go, and anything can happen at a track like Brands Hatch.
Exactly, and we're going to go find out just what happens as we go into the race. Here we are then on the grid for our first race of Season 2, Craig. The tensions are building as we get ready to do it all over again. It's Jonathan Carrera though who will be feeling the most nerves. Pole position on his first ever outing in the AIC. Will he be able to hold Craig Evans off into turn 1, the more experienced Scott? Lights out and away we go, and we will find out the answer to that question. Craig Evans has got a pretty decent start. Surely he'll have an attack around the outside to turn 1. Turn 1 they come, and Craig Evans gets the job done before they even reach turn 1. Great stuff. Jonathan Carrera under threat from Chester Jackson and Nickel Foggy, who's going to try look to go up the inside. He's also going to try get a move done on Chester Jackson and gain a place. So both NLR boys gaining a place on this early lap as we come into turn 3. It's Chester Jackson trying to go back down the inside, doesn't have the grunt to do it. We can see a bit further back, that is a GTFG car, that's Charles McBee trying to get past Colin McAllister as we run into the Grand Prix circuit. And we can see he's holding the inside line. He's going to try to squeeze Colin out, almost hit Zach Swader in doing that. They're still side by side as they run towards the bridge and go under the bridge. We can hear these fantastic sounding cars going by already. There's a lot more noise than Season 1. Is Colin McAllister going to be able to do anything about Charles McBee going into the corner? No, he's not. We can see Toby Byrne there and Ross McFarlane going side by side. Who's going to get the better of which one? Coming up to the left-hander. The banging doors aggressively. Ross McFarlane looks like he has the job done on Toby Byrne, but he will have the inside, of course, for the next corner, but subdues the position. And wow, Craig, lap 1, things are beginning to happen.
So a lot of action going on already. It was a good move by Charles here to get past his former teammate Colin in the early laps, and he'll want to kind of make some progress further up the field. Got more cars going side by side there. I think that was a Pro Race car trying to get past one of the Edinburgh Racing. Not too sure that was at the moment, but it looks to have that move sorted. And they're coming under pressure down the start-finish straight. I think that is that going past around the outside there. I'm getting used to all these cars.
Melgainus going around the outside, Craig.
That was passing Josh Martin there. So side by side, Josh looks like he's lost a little bit of power. He seems to be down on power. He's just not. Oh, he's gone up the inside now into Druids, but he's lost a couple of places, and again no traction from out the corner. I think he's just struggling with this car in the opening laps, maybe struggling to get the tyres up to temperature, Toby.
Yeah, he got a pretty bad exit. We can see the leaders coming through now as we look a little bit further back. This is almost free abreast. The two Pro Race cars going side by side with Byrne waiting to pick up the pieces, and he tries to go around the outside of McFarlane as he got squeezed out by his teammate of Martin. As we head to the bridge once again, he gets the job done, which means McFarlane is now vulnerable to Evan Imre, and Douglas Anderson will follow Evan Imre through. Very opportunistic stuff there for Douglas Anderson, but he gets held around the outside by Ross McFarlane. Byrne ahead, trying to go up the inside of Martin. They bang doors once again, as do McFarlane and Douglas. So these guys in the DTM cars are not afraid to get a bit rough with each other. We can see Byrne and McFarlane ahead, still side by side, banging doors. It looks like McFarlane... no, sorry, that's Martin, isn't it? It's got the measure of him. And then Evan Imre, out of nowhere, sneaks one up the inside, but he doesn't have the run to hold Byrne off as they come into the final corner, which means he's going to come under threat from Douglas Anderson, and plenty more moves to come, and I think it's time you hear some from my co-commentator, Craig Evans.
They're not holding back here at all today, are they? And this is for the lower part of the field as well. I'm not too sure if we're in the points just yet, but they're really getting their elbows out early in the season, as we can see McFarlane getting a little bit twitchy there. I think that was McBee coming into the side of him, and his teammate Martin further up ahead is under pressure as well. But a lot of action here, side by side, like that, pushing each other around the corner. I think McBee's got the measure of McFarlane here, but he's got the outside for coming down the hill, but he's holding it nicely around the outside. McFarlane just wasn't able to get the power down, and that is the other GTFG car coming through and making a nice pass there. We've got more action, 3 abreast. Well, thankfully we didn't see how that one ended, because it was going to be disastrous by the looks of things. We've got Colin McAllister now coming under pressure from both NORL and an ISR car. And he's a bit of contact there. He's kept going though. He's kept it on the road, Toby.
Yeah, there was a little bit of orange bodywork that came off Colin's car after that, and that was Christopher Petterson and Colin McAllister banging doors on this early section. Not much to see on that helicopter cam. As we come into the next section, we can look back at Evan Imre, who is just ahead of this big train. Look at this, Craig. The lower half of the grid, this is for outside the points, and Nut Martinson, it's all but last at this point. The champion having a really torrid time and needs to get a move on. That's Danny Diaz ahead of him as well, Craig. Danny Diaz was his title rival, if you remember. Words have fallen away from me, but if you remember last season up until Donington, Danny Diaz was his main contender. So let's see what they can do. 2 title companions, 2 guys that battled for the title this time last year. Nut Martinson pulls to the inside, but Danny Diaz goes defensive and tries to make a move himself on Ross McFarlane, which is going to frustrate Nut Martinson as he tries to find a way by. We're going to swap to this lovely swingman camera, and he's going to try get underneath Danny Diaz here, Craig, and look at that. Just forced him off the apex, and now he'll have to do it around the outside of turn 3. He'll have to get late on the brakes, and he's managed to do that. Squeezes Diaz up on the curb and gets the job done, Craig.
That was a nice move around the outside there. It's just a shame it was for the last couple of places in the field and not have further up the points for him, but he's got that move done. That's one less car to deal with, and hopefully he'll kind of find his way up through the field. We'll see how that goes for him. But just action all over the place, and like I said, this is the out of the points, and they're still fighting hard like it was for a podium or for a win. So it's excellent to see so early in the season. Normally you see people kind of being a bit refrained, taking their time, feeling their opposition, but there's no feeling happening here. It's just full on whacking, and yeah, that's what we want to see, isn't it? Got McFarlane here now. He's just chasing down the pack ahead, hoping to see if he can force a mistake, make a move somewhere, and get up the field and try and get into the points.
It's like Josh Martin is coming under pressure from Byrne once again. These guys have been going at it for quite some time, and look at the gap ahead. Byrne gets the run, which means Josh Martin is going to get a poor exit out of that corner, and we can see that's Douglas Anderson. Douglas Anderson, we have to give a shout out to, Craig. He's been very opportunistic, just following other people through. He lets other people make the moves for him, and he just follows them through. So great stuff from Douglas Anderson to be so awake, but Martin's reluctant to let that one go. Again, he's trying to do a similar move to what we saw Martinson do, but it looks like Anderson has got the better exit. attacks it, and McBee out of nowhere tries to catch Martin napping into turn 3 in the background there, and they're going side by side into the Grand Prix layout. Will McBee have the measure of Martin coming into this corner? Contact between the two. Martin squeezes him out, and McBee will be out for a bit of vengeance after that one as he gets squeezed out. We can see Martinson there has actually made quite a lot of places. Martinson, he's now attacking Stephen Paul with his teammate, and Stephen Paul looks like he's going to get the inside, but Evan Imre is going to try hold it around the outside. Just got such a better line, and now Martinson will have to try go around the outside of McBee also, but it looks like contact between the two there, and Martinson slowed down and lost a bit of ground in that fight as he comes under a bit of threat from McFarlane, Craig.
Yeah, it looks like he's got a lot of pace here today in comparison to his qualifying, so hopefully he'll get past some of these cars and fire his way through the field. McBee looked the same. He looked like he had a lot of pace compared to Josh Martin, so he'll want to get him moved out of the way as quick as possible and work his way up and see if he can nab a few points. I think they're currently battling a couple of positions out of points at the moment. It's down to 10th place that gets point in this season, to remember, so they'll want to fight as hard as they can. Every point counts, and we saw that last season with Martinson. He scored lowly in the first couple of races and just put a great run together, so everybody has to remember that. As we saw a car in the back and get a little bit twitchy there, I think that was McFarlane. I'm not too sure who he's battling with, but he got a little bit twitchy at the first corner, kept it on the road, which is the main thing. But looking through the field now, there's not many battles happening up towards the front. That's all calmed down. It's towards the back here where all the action is happening, Toby.
Yeah, as we take a look quickly at our top 8, of course, Carrera with that single point from pole puts him on the top. It's a yellow stripe if they're a rookie, of course, and a dark blue stripe if they've been here before. So the rookies quite high up in the standings right now. They're doing their new teams proud and proving that they were the right decision. Of course, Jackson replacing the outgoing Swader, Jacobs replacing the outgoing Pavia, and of course the other guys in the background there. So we can see here that Carrera is starting, who is the other rookie that I should mention, is starting to close Craig Evans in just a bit, Craig. He's starting to pull him back. Of course, he got the pole position time, but it doesn't look like he had the experience to keep calm and collected off the start, which means Evans got such a better start, but it looks like Carrera's starting to pull him back just a little bit, and in the background it looks like the other NLR car will be coming under a bit of threat from Jackson. But the thing going through Evans' mind right now is probably he wants Nickel to get a move on and get past Carrera so he can be his rear gunner and they can get a nice 1-2 here early on, because that's going to really help them throughout the course of the season, Craig, with that many constructor points. That
would be ideal, wouldn't it? Bear in mind last season they've already currently got more points than they did last season if it finishes as it is, and that's after one race. So they've got to think, does Evans want to kind of try and run away with it and get away as quick as he can and hope Nickel passes, or does he kind of sort of want to back Carrera up and force him to start defending as well as attacking? So some mind games could come into play here, but it's only the first race of the season. A 1-3 would be fantastic for that team considering how much of a dismal campaign they had last time out. But good results so far, and it's nice to see the rookie Carrera up there at the front, starting on pole and keeping it strong in the podium positions.
Yeah, we are looking at the man who we voted, Craig. You voted, everyone voted as your driver of the season last time out, coming under a bit of pressure as the guy that might be man of the season this time out, a new rookie. Certainly a contender for rookie of the season. Kevin Jacobs is going to try go at the inside of Joshua Robert Wood. Josh is not going to let that happen. He was in this position last time, this time last season, Craig, if you remember, and he did a very good job being consistent. And he's in a strong 5th place right now, is Wood, coming under a bit of pressure from Jacobs and just starting to get a little bit rattled in that cage, you would assume. But he's got the experience over Jacobs now, and it's the likes of Jacobs, Jackson and Carrera that have got to do what he did last season, because he would be the role model. As we look at Chester Jackson, what a run he's got. Is he going to give it a go on Nickel Foggy? Surely not. He's not in the slipstream. He's trying to sell a dummy, maybe scare Nickel in the mirrors a little bit there, and but he's not worked. But he got a really good run, and he actually got a run through that corner. But look how close the top 4 are closing in, and is that McBee there closing in Jacobs? The top 7 and top 7-8, Craig, are really closing up to each other. But like we were saying for the rookies, they've all got to follow the man who's probably the best man to ask about how you go in a season when you're that inexperienced. And Josh is probably, in terms of AIC, probably the guy to take a few notes from his book.
Yeah, definitely. It's not all about kind of getting the podiums and the wins. As Josh showed last season, he's quite consistent, and he was there right until the end, pretty much as a championship contender, which in your first season, that's what you want to do. If you can do that, that's excellent. Normally, you'd be looking at just picking up the points and doing well for your team, but he was consistent all season long and put his team right up there in the team's championship as well as him just being in the drivers' championship. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys go. Looking at Jackson, Team EQU, they had a fantastic season last time out. Danny Diaz was right up there in the drivers' standings right until the last couple of races where he kind of faltered a little bit, but the team as a whole, they were doing quite well, quite high in the standings, and he's carrying that on for him. It's just a shame his teammate Diaz, who was the main guy last season, is down standings a little bit this time around, but good showing so far, and showing a lot of promise. And again, you said Kevin Jacobs, he's not too far behind either. He's looking at him, you can just see him in the background there, so he's got a good chance of getting some points on the board. So yeah, looking at what we did last season, these guys certainly did take some notes, and they're now putting him under pressure for it.
Yep, and he is trying to get past a rookie who is in his shoes from last season. He's trying to get past Chester Jackson, who is putting the pressure on Foggy, but Foggy's pulled away a little bit and started putting a little bit of pressure on Jonathan Carrera just ahead as we rode on board there temporarily. And it looks like Josh is just starting to fall off the back of Jackson just a bit, and that looked like Jackson was trying to make a move there as he blasted past the camera. We take a look, it looks like he didn't make it, but he was very close to making it on Foggy, and such a wise old head in Nickel Foggy is starting to come a little bit flustered by the hot-headed, very eager newcomer who wants his third place on the grid back. And that's always interesting to see. It kind of like in the way you see in F1 these new guys coming in, and in touring cars as well. The new guys come in, and the more experienced heads are trying to keep themselves out of trouble. I think Nickel knows, considering the season NLR had last season, he knows it's very important, this result here today, and he's racing with that in mind. But Jackson, the typical newcomer spirit, just wants to have fun and wants to get as high as he can and make a name for himself. He might not be with EQU his whole AIC career, and he looks like he's already trying to put a resume together. As we're looking at Zach Swader has caught this train now, so another train in this battle, Craig. This is the top 7, will be the top 8 or 9 now. They're all pretty damn close together, and because there's overtaking going on and battling, it's allowing the guys to catch up, and you can see in the background there, Christopher Pettersson is not too far back either, as we look at our leader, who looks like he's pretty comfortable right now, and it doesn't look like Carrera has the experience to really find it in his racecraft to have a go at Craig.
Yeah, it seems to be just kind of been measuring the gap at the moment. If Carrera starts closing up, he'll just kind of stick to legs a wee bit more. But it's keeping it comfortable. There's no point in pushing too hard. You'll end up making a mistake that way. You don't want to bottle it from the lead position. That's the last thing you want to do. And he's got his teammate as a bit of a rear gunner, so if he does feel under pressure, he just needs to back the field up a little bit. And it's always a nice tactic to have up your sleeve if things start getting tight at the front, which they look like they are. Carrera's closing up a little bit on the brakes there. Didn't get the best run through the corner, and Foggy's got a fantastic exit there, and all he's got to do is now get in the slipstream and see if he can force a move. He's ducking out of it though. He's not going to make a move here. He's too far back. He's got to close back in behind and kind of reconvene, look for another chance further around the circuit. But it's all getting very, very close at the front here, and as you can see, new cars keep getting added onto the back of this train each lap, Toby.
Yeah, it's getting nice and close, and Nickel Foggy was, you'd have to say, trying to use his experience to kind of scare Carrera by getting large in the mirrors like that, and it didn't work. Jonathan Carrera was able to see through that one and just focus on Craig ahead. Chester Jackson closing in for another attack on Nickel Foggy, you would assume, and try to have a go. As he goes a little bit wide though, that's going to allow Joshua Robert Wood to surely have a go. Coming into turn 1, he's going to have to do it around the outside. No, he sells the dummy and tries to switch back to the inside, but it just doesn't look like he has the top speed to do that. He gets very close and almost a collision going in turn 1, which causes Joshua to go a bit wide on the exit, which makes him come under a bit of threat from Kevin Jacobs. As we take a look through the field to see what else is going on, and we can see they're all pretty spread out. It's a bit of the part of the race where everything calms down and you just got to put the hot laps in. But the top 4 are arguably our closest on track, which is nice to see. And you can see Christopher Pettersson back there closing in a bit lap by lap. But you got to give it to these guys, Craig. In the top 5, there is 3 newcomers, 3 rookies in the season are in the top 5. So that's an impressive ratio to have.
It definitely is, and it's good showing for the season as well. It just goes to show that it's attracting some talent. That's all you can ask for, and it'd be good to see how these guys progress throughout as the season goes on as well. Also at the front, we've got guys that didn't really have the best of seasons either, so it just shows this change in car might have been something that they needed. Obviously, we've gone from front-wheel drive Scirocco's to rear-wheel drive German beasts, so it's could be a change of style. It might be something that they prefer over what they were driving last season. But we've got Carrero's closing in again. Every couple of laps, you see him just kind of gaining a couple of tenths, and that's just shortening the gap, and he's bringing everybody else with him. Nichols closing in once again, and just needs to try and make a move stick this time around, because every time he goes for a move and it doesn't pay off, he then gets put under pressure from Jackson, and it's a bit of a domino effect back through the field. But as we can see, Jackson showing his nose. He was a little bit too far back there. Maybe should have kind of slotted in behind and followed closely for the next couple of corners, but just kind of trying to scare his opposition, Toby, trying to scare them into a move.
Yeah, everyone's trying to adopt the same tactics, and it's interesting because Nicol tried to adopt these tactics on the likes of Carrera, and maybe that Jackson saw that and thought, well, I'll have to go on you next. But Wood, impressive run by Wood. Is he going to be able to get anything done with it? He pulls out of the slipstream, but it looks like that Mercedes, Craig, just doesn't have a lot of top line. It looks like the Audi's a better top line speed car. Maybe that means the Mercedes is a better acceleration based car. I'm not sure, but Christopher Pettersson, a shout out to him, he is right on this train, and he's an experienced guy, a guy who went into the title battle and kind of got really unlucky. The NORL car last season was very up and down. It would either be really good or it would be pretty poor. This season, they're running a bit more of a plain livery, a bit more stripped down, pure NORL, and we can ride on board with it now and see how he's closing in Zach Swader, who is trying to battle with Charles McBee as we look at the NORL beast of the 2017 Season 2 season. Tries to rope in new cars. But speaking of teams, we've had teams going up and down, Craig, but we haven't really spoken about Autoback 765, which is who Jonathan is driving for. Both cars on their first season, their debut race in the top 10, and a double points finish is always good for a team starting out, because there's always a very knife edge point if they're going to be successful or not.
Yeah, no, it's a great performance for them so far. It just shows to their sponsors as well that they were right to back them as a team, and it'll show any possible investors as well that they mean business. And that's what you want. You want some good drivers with good results. A good car is obviously the highest BMWs in the field as well, so they're showing that car is just as competitive as these Audis, which they seem to be surrounded by. And we can see there, that is Swader, not even Swader, Jacobs looking on Wood yet again. So he's put him under a lot of pressure, and it's just not paying off at the moment. But you never know. It's the pace is there in those cars. You can see, like I said, Carrero's racing the BMW, as is Jacobs here. You can see, so it does have a bit of pace in it as well. It's just got to see. We've said that the Merc seems to have a lot of acceleration off the corner, and I think it showed that a few times. So it'll be interesting to find out where the BMW strength is. Maybe it's an all-rounder. We're not too sure just yet. But that's something we can look at as the season progresses. Well, that's probably the closest battle we've got on field at the moment. We've got McBeed closing in, Swader closing in on Jacobs as well. So there's a few tasty battles could be on the horizon as we close in towards the end of the race.
Yeah, we've seen with Brands Hatch, haven't we? This race has been a perfect metaphor of that. That it's on the opening laps, it's a good track to overtake on, but once everyone gets up to speed and gets in a rhythm, it's a pretty difficult track to make overtakes on. So these guys are really having to try adapt new tactics to get a move. And look at the run Nicol Foggy's got again. Surely he'll have a go. And Jonathan Carrera's actually gone defensive. Nichols tried to get the inside line once again before Jonathan shuts it off. He's a bit closer this time, but surely he won't try it on the brakes. Wow, mega close stuff as we ride with that lovely helicopter cam shot. And we can just see, Craig, the damage. That is a perfect showing of the damage. When you don't make a move, just how much time you lose from the car in front and to the car behind. It was really close in how close that was, and how much he lost just by having to get out the throttle that little bit, Craig.
Yeah, it's one of those corners, unless you actually have an overlap, you're better just slotting in behind them and following them round. If you get a good run through that corner, again, the next corner, it's very, very similar. It's a little bit of a slower one, but again, you have to have that overlap to even think about showing your nose. If you don't have the overlap, you just follow suit and follow them round, because there are better opportunities than that corner. Turn 1, it's probably one of the best places to overtake, as we can see a move happening here. That was Wood getting overtaken by Jacobs, was it?
Yeah, I think that was him trying to make the move on Jackson, but Jackson held on to it.
Yeah, but that turn 1, that's probably one of the best places to overtake. If you can get up the inside on the brakes there, car on the outside has no chance of holding it around there. Even if you can't make the move, turn 2 Druids, that's another lovely place to make a move up there. So there is a few overtaking opportunities on this circuit, but they are few and far between, especially when the fields as evenly spread as they are at the moment. You have to line it up a couple of corners in advance. You have to set it up in advance and just plan it perfectly, Toby.
Yeah, like I say, it seems to be good when the cars are at low speed, just getting up to temperature. It seems like there's plenty of places you can get a good dive bomb on and stuff like that. But once we're up and running, I imagine these cars with all these canards and splitters and massive wings, Craig, I imagine they generate a bit of turbulent air as well. So if you're in the slipstream, the car probably starts misbehaving a little bit compared to what it would in free air. So I think the drivers are having to get used to that as well. And we go to Curitiba next week, Craig, in Brazil, which has got probably, if not one of the biggest straights on the calendar. So we'll have to see how the cars deal with it that time around. This track's more of a short and compact circuit, as you can see Kevin Jacobs closing in on Wood again. And look how much more confident, and I think we might have just found the BMW's strength, Craig. It seems to be able to get on the brakes, the anchors, a lot later than the other cars around it can do. As we can see, McBee has closed in a lot on Jacobs in that battle. We're just checking up and down the field to see if we haven't missed anything. Everyone's kind of driving on their own in the mid-pack and down to towards the bottom of the grid. But look how close the top 9 are. That is weird. That's one of the first times I've ever seen that, Craig, where the top 9 are closer together than the rest of the field are. As we can see a move going on. Oh, contact between Zach Swader and Charles McBee. And now Zach Swader will have to do it around the outside. Surely not. That's not going to work. Oh my God. He's not. No. Zach Swader around the outside of Charles McBee on one of the fastest corners on the circuit. And he leaves it to the penultimate lap to get past, which means Charles McBee comes under a bit of pressure from Christopher Pettersson now, but doesn't really look like he has anywhere to go with it. But shout out to Zach Swader, Craig. That's experience, and that gave him one hell of a move.
That was a stunning move around the outside. Very, very brave to do that. We've seen many other drivers kind of hold that as a defensive line, but nobody's used that to attack just yet, and Swader has done that perfectly. As we can see, Nickel Foggy coming under pressure from Jackson. This is what I said is one of the best places to make a move, as Jackson goes up the inside into turn 1. Ooh. Oh, very, very close to making contact there. Foggy just holds it around the outside. Left him enough of a gap, but Jackson wasn't able to do it. Looking up the inside of turn 2, nothing there happening that time around either. But going back to Swader, that was a phenomenal move. And Charles McBee, he can't be too angry because he was outclassed there by a stunning move. But McBee himself, I think if you remember rightly, he was down 14th, 15th earlier on this race battling away, and he's done well. He's up into the top 10 now, and certainly in the points. So despite getting completely rinsed around the outside, he's on for a good result.
He is, as we can see Chester Jackson looking like he was under a bit of pressure there, but he tried to go up the inside into turn 2, didn't he? And Nickel Foggy went late defensive, so that was great stuff. It really heats up towards the end of the race, but it looks like Carrero is trying his best to catch Craig Evans, but it's going to be so difficult to catch and pass him on the final lap, and this is probably the trickiest sector to make an overtake. He's going to try his best to stick with Craig Evans, but it looks like Craig, from my point of view here, will have it all done and dusted as we watch them come around for the final time. Will he be able to do anything? No, he needs a really good run to challenge him up to the line, but he goes wide and actually loses a bit of time. So unfortunately, it's going to be Craig Evans. Unfortunately for Jonathan Carrera, but fortunately for Craig Evans, he takes the first win of the ISR AIC Season 2, a commanding victory. He was under pressure all race and managed to survive it, and that was an impressive drive for Craig Evans to come underneath that much pressure and get away with it. We saw some great moves early on, and then we saw that phenomenal move by Zach Swader, who left it until the penultimate lap. But wow, Craig, impressive start for Autobacks, and even better for the struggling NLR.
Yeah, no, both teams will be delighted with that result. Shame for NLR not to get their 1-2. Foggy put some pressure on, but not enough on Carrero there. But what I've got to say, shout out to Carrero, debut race, and to get a pole position on a podium is not a bad day in the office at all. So we'll see how he can cope with the rest of the season. But we'll take you through the results here. We've got obviously Evans, Carrero, Foggy top 3, Jackson 4th in his debut, Wooden 5th, Jacobs 6th, another debutant up in the top 10, Swader 7th, McBee 8th, Christopher Pettersson in 9th place, and Milganis coming into the top 10. McAllister and Byrne finishing 11th and 12th, just missing out on those points positions. But it's a cracking opening race of the season, Toby. These cars look to be producing some excellent action, and I'll let you run through the the rest of the top 22.
Yeah, we can see Douglas Anderson in 13th ahead of Martin Imre Paul. Spencer Martinson having a really bad day for our reigning champion. Danny Diaz ahead of Valeria Campagnari, Gareth Lennon and Ross McFarlane, who dropped, I'm sure he started close to, if not in the top 10, so a torrid day in the office for Pro Race, which is interesting how effectively, aren't they, Craig? The NLR team and the Pro Race team are sister teams, and one team has had the day of their life and the other has had one to forget, so that was a pretty tough day in the office for Pro Race. But of course on the other side you have a very good day for Pro. So we can look at the standings, which are the same as your race results, other than Jonathan Carrera will take that pole position point with him to give him 19 points instead of 18 points, which puts him 6 points behind Craig, and a good foundation to build the season on. But of course, for the guys who didn't score, all the guys tied in 11th place who didn't score, we can know that our champion from last season didn't score in round 1 either, as we take a look at the team standings and look at the commanding lead NLR got from their great result today. Autobacks getting 25 points in their first ever race, shout out to them as well. And a good day for some and a bad day for others, but like I said, Craig, our champion from last season did not score a point in round 1 either, so it's all still wide open as we've got another 7 rounds to come yet.
Yeah, and like I said before at the start of the programme here, he's not going to bother too much about that. Obviously he'd have liked to get through the field and get some points, but we saw last season Martinson had a slow start. And on the flip side, there's other drivers had a fantastic start. We'll take Gareth Lennon for example. He had a great start of the season last time around, and it kind of petered out, so it can go any which way. We've seen that before, and yeah, season 1 innings to go by, this could be a fantastic season with a lot of ups and downs for drivers throughout the field. But NLR, Autoback 765, they've had a strong start, and they're going to want to keep that up into the second round of the championship.
So it was a great day and a great race for all of these guys, and I'm really impressed that they gave it their all in the first lap, not like last time where they gave it the whole race without really making that many moves. So we'll end off with one thing, Craig, as we always ask: who was your driver of the day?
Well, that's a tough one there. There's a lot to pick, but I think we can't really look too much past Jonathan Carrera there. Obviously he's had a fantastic result to get pole position. Didn't have the greatest of starts, but second place is still excellent. To hold off from 2 series veterans and the chasing pack behind, I think I'll have to give it to him on this one for a very consistent display to keep a podium on his debut.
That's all from us here at Brands Hatch, and until next time in Curitiba in Brazil, we will see you then, and I can't wait to see who comes out on top in Brazil. Thank you ever so much for watching, and goodbye.